Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Kelly Ripa has an unconventional way of speeding through the grocery store, true crime. During the Wednesday, October 15th episode of Live with Kelly and Mark, the 55-year-old talk show host was listing ways grocery stores get shoppers to spend more money when she confessed her secret to getting in and out of the supermarket quickly is to queue up a murder podcast. Background music makes people shop slower, Ripa explained while reading off of a sheet of paper with talking points. Which is why I always listen to murder podcasts when I go grocery shopping. Because nothing makes you move quickly like thinking. You know, the hope and faith actress revelation caused her husband and co-host, Mark Consuelos, 54, to laugh as he replied, "So this whole thing is a scam." Ripa additionally read about how grocery stores are cleverly designed to make shoppers spend more than they intend. Milk is always far away. It's in the back corner. Bread and eggs are in that area too, she said. This is done on purpose because stores know most people want to grab basic items and leave quickly. So they scatter those items far apart so that you have to go through and shop and pick up things that maybe you didn't have on your list or you don't need. Listing off other sneaky supermarket tactics, Ripa pointed out how stores are designing bigger shopping carts so that people can consume more and more. Checkout lines, of course, are designed to make people spend more money, she added, as Ripa and Consuelos joked about the sweet treats, tabloid magazines, chewing gum, earbuds, and gift cards that the most expensive products are at eye level, she mentioned. Which for me is much lower. I never get to the expensive items. That's why I keep my budget low. The conversation about grocery stores reminded Consuelos of his days working at Publix as a bagger when he was in high school. Kelly Ripa had always believed that small, private rituals made the impossible possible. A single stubborn rule about how to fold socks, a particular mug for Mondays, the exact arrangement of paperwork on her desk so it felt like the world would behave if she arranged it correctly. But of all the rituals in her life, none was as quietly methodical and as quietly absurd as the one she resorted to every time she stepped into a grocery store, true crime at full volume. It started, as such unlikely things often do, out of necessity. Years of balancing taped segments, live banter, a family to be ferried in and out of school and activities, and the compulsion to dodge aisles packed with promotional displays had taught Kelly that the only way to be efficient in a modern grocery store was to move with intention. Background music made people linger. Seasonal bakery displays whispered promises of something warm and sweet, and packaged products with cheerful fonts invited aimless comparison. She had tried lists, strict budgets, even shopping at off hours. But the one thing that consistently sliced through the seductive, meandering architecture of supermarkets was the quiet terror of a well-told crime story. She liked it because it made the world feel urgent in the best possible way, urgent for entirely practical reasons. Nothing made her move more briskly than the imagined footsteps she could hear through her headphones. When a narrator's voice set up a cold case and a detective's slow, patient hum of evidence, Kelly found herself striding, reaching, and checking the expiration date on milk with a focus she'd never felt for dairy before. Where the store laid out temptations and strategically placed essential items like a maze, murder podcasts turned the grocery run into a mission. It became, by a sort of slow, gleeful inevitability, a running joke at home. Mark called it Kelly's soundtrack of avoidance. And sometimes, if the cameras were off and the kids were at grandparents', he would follow the sound of her determined wheels down the produce aisle as she announced into the phone, "Don't ask questions. I'm on a timeline." The week she confessed it on air, laughing, playful, a little conspiratorial, was not the week that changed her habits. It was the week she realized that confessing the thing made it funnier, the community laughed, and then an ordinary errand turned into a tiny act of rebellion against the carefully engineered slow sell of modern retail. She loved the idea that deep, grotesque intrigue could be repurposed for speed. She imagined the grocery store as a theater, and herself as a performer in a thriller, frugal and clever. The milk, she knew lived in the back. The bread was deliberately not where her cart might naturally go. Checkouts were candy-laden and magazine-flecked traplines. Cart sizes swelled like patient animals, offering capacity for all the purchases you might not have planned. Eye level was prime real estate. She had read the notes, the marketing think pieces, and nodded along behind her headphones as if hearing a corroborating witness. The first time she tried the murder podcast tactic in earnest, she had been in a store she didn't often visit, a chain with brighter lights and more ambitious displays. It was a Tuesday in late summer. She had her list: milk, eggs, the brand of cereal that did not explode into crumbs in the box, lemons for a recipe she'd promised to try, and little more. She slipped an earbud in one ear, because everywhere else she had places to be. The podcast host, low, calm, precise, began to narrate a small town's unraveling, a disappearance from 20 years ago, the little clues everyone glossed over. She walked. She moved with an economy she had not known she possessed. A woman in an oversized sweater, one who would ordinarily have explored the new artisan crackers, hung back in the pasta aisle and mouthed a puzzled "excuse me" as Kelly navigated past, eyes skimming, list in hand. Kelly's hands were unclumsy yet exacting, finding the brand she wanted and replacing it on the shelf as if she were collecting evidence. She had never felt more purposeful pushing a cart. Someone in fresh produce smiled as she swept past with a decisiveness that would not be mistaken for haste. When she reached the refrigerated section, she snatched the milk with a speed that made the person next to her laugh aloud in delight. "You're on a mission," he said. "Yes," she said, and laughed into the microphone in her ear where a voice described a cracked sidewalk and a witness who remembered a small black car. Exactly like that. By the time she got home, the milk was on the counter, the lemons in a bowl, and the time wasted in-store had been reduced to something that could be measured in minutes instead of indeterminate, indulgent stretches. She told Mark about it at dinner, how the podcast made her breathe in a different rhythm, how she felt like a secret agent buying asparagus, and he raised an eyebrow, amused and a little impressed. "You make it sound glamorous," he said. She shrugged. "It's shockingly efficient." They both laughed, because that was the honest truth of it. There was something slightly ridiculous about using music about morbid crimes as a productivity tool, and the sheer ridiculousness of it all made them both relish the story. On air, though, when she said it, when she read aloud how music kept shoppers anchored and joked that murder podcasts were her secret weapon, the studio air lasted only as long as it needed to. The audience laughed, Mark's chuckle filled the microphone, and the joke settled into its new life as an anecdote they would retell with relish. But beneath the surface of the chuckles, the domestic comedy of it was a deeper, quieter thing, the way life's anxiety could be transformed into resourcefulness. Kelly had always been someone who turned discomfort into clever small rituals. True crime, she realized, had always been a strange salve for her curiosity about the world. The sheer velvet thrill of the puzzle, the human psychology behind mistakes and choices. It was now a practical aid to domestic efficiency. The morbidity sharpened her focus the way a deadline sharpened a show's running time. There were variations to the ritual. Sometimes, in the old suburban stores that smelled faintly of bleach and bakery yeast, she preferred serialized mysteries, the kind that built slowly across episodes. They gave her a steady drive. The detective's patient accumulation of facts paralleled her own methodical sweep through the aisles. Other times, in glare-lit hypermarkets with aisles numbered like flight gates, she wanted immediate adrenaline, tight, harrowing interrogation-style stories that poured at her like caffeine. For those, she would crank the podcast a notch louder at the crossing of the frozen food section, where the eerie, slow tempo of background music might otherwise convince her to linger. The thrill made her brisk, her hands efficient. There were small penalties for this behavior, of course. Once, in a rush through a Sunday market, she missed the expiration date on a yogurt and had to call Mark from the parking lot because the receipt, buried now in a purse, would not easily prove the mistake. Another time, her murder playlist had coincided with a true crime story that was also, in an odd twist, about grocery theft rings. She found herself making eye contact with a man who was rearranging loaves of bread into his jacket. She